Hello everyone and welcome to my Y&R Trends channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The newest episode of The Young and the Restless for Thursday, October 9, 2025, opens with a storm brewing in Genoa City. Not outside, but within every heart that dares to hide a secret. From the first scene, it's clear that today's story will leave no character untouched. The Newman family, once the symbol of power and loyalty, stands on the edge of collapse. And the Abbott clan, always tangled in their own rivalries, isn't far behind. The air at the Newman ranch feels heavier than ever as Victoria sits alone, nursing a glass of red wine while staring out the wide windows into the dark horizon. Her thoughts race back to what she overheard the night before, the secret that could destroy her family's fragile peace. She knows something that no one else does. Kane may not just be a figure from Genoa City's complicated past, he might actually be Claire's biological brother. The shock of that revelation still burns in her chest. It's almost too much to believe, but the whispers, the documents, and the DNA test results she found hidden in Victor's private drawer all point to one chilling truth. Kane and Claire share the same father. The thought makes Victoria's head spin. She remembers every conversation she's had with Claire, every moment of comfort and bonding since the young woman came into their lives. Claire had been through hell. Kidnapped, manipulated, brainwashed by Jordan, and then slowly rebuilding herself with Victoria's support. To now discover that the man she once trusted might be her half-brother is like a dagger to the heart. But it's more complicated than that. Victoria also knows that Victor has been keeping this a secret for months, maybe even years. Meanwhile, across town at Crimson Lights, Sharon senses that something big is about to break loose. She's behind the counter, serving coffee to Faith and Chance, who have stopped by for a quiet breakfast. But Sharon's intuition is sharper than ever. She can read emotions like a book, and she immediately notices that Chance seems distracted. His phone keeps buzzing, and each time he glances at it, his expression darkens a little more. Faith teases him, trying to lighten the mood, but Sharon knows a storm when she sees one. "You've got that look again," she tells him gently. Chance sighs and finally admits that he's been getting updates about something involving the Newman family. There's talk of leaked documents, ones that could change everything for Victor, Victoria, and their company. Sharon's eyebrows lift slightly. "The Newmans and secrets," she murmurs. "That never ends well." At the Abbott mansion, Jack and Diane are trying to focus on their morning routine, but Ashley's sudden return to town has thrown them off balance. She's back from Paris earlier than expected, and her tone is as sharp as ever. Ashley wastes no time letting them know she's heard rumors about Tucker's next move. And it's not good. Tucker's been meeting with Kane, and that alliance could mean trouble for both Jabot and Chancellor Winters. Jack rolls his eyes, tired of playing defense against Tucker's endless scheming, but Diane warns that they shouldn't underestimate him. "He's always got an angle," she says, stirring her tea. Ashley crosses her arms and smirks. "So do we." It's a subtle reminder that she's not afraid to fight fire with fire. Back at Newman Enterprises, Victoria tries to focus on work, but every document she reads blurs into confusion. Her assistant knocks, saying Victor wants to see her in his office. Her heart skips. She knows what this is about. He must suspect that she found out the truth. When she enters his office, the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. Victor stands by the window, his back turned, the same way he always does when he's thinking about something big. "I understand you've been digging where you shouldn't be digging," he says without turning around. His voice is calm, but the warning is unmistakable. Victoria takes a deep breath. "I wasn't digging, Dad. I was cleaning up your mess." That gets his attention. He turns slowly, his eyes sharp. "Be careful, Victoria. There are things you don't understand." But she's not backing down. "I understand enough. I know about Kane and Claire. I know what you did." For a long moment, neither of them speaks. The silence between them is almost unbearable. Finally, Victor walks over to his desk, places his hands flat on the surface and sighs. "You think you know everything, but there's more to this than you realize. I did what I had to do to protect this family." Victoria scoffs. "Protect us? Or control us?" Her voice cracks, revealing the pain beneath her anger. "You've been playing God with our lives for decades, and now it's catching up to you. Victor's jaw tightens. Watch your tone, young lady. You wouldn't even be standing here if I hadn't made those choices. But Victoria's resolve is unshaken. And now Claire is going to pay the price for your lies. Meanwhile at Society, Kane sits alone at the bar, nursing a drink and staring into nothingness. He's been feeling restless ever since his last encounter with Tucker, who hinted that there was something about his past he didn't know. At first, Kane brushed it off. He's had enough drama for one lifetime. But the more he thinks about it, the more he realizes Tucker seemed genuinely convinced of something big. As Abby walks by, she greets him warmly, sensing that he's not his usual self. You look like a man who's seen a ghost, she jokes lightly. Kane forces a smile but doesn't deny it. Something like that, he mutters. Abby sits down and asks if he wants to talk, but he hesitates. Not yet, he says quietly. I need to be sure before I open that door. At the same time, Claire is visiting Nick at his place, seeking advice about her career. She's been trying to rebuild her life, focusing on work and healing. But she's also been feeling uneasy lately, like something big is lurking just beyond her reach. Nick encourages her to keep moving forward, reminding her that she's stronger than she thinks. But as they talk, Claire's phone buzzes with a message from an unknown number. When she opens it, her face goes pale. It's a single sentence. Ask Victoria about your brother. She tries to steady her breathing, pretending nothing happened. But Nick notices the change in her demeanor. Everything okay? He asks. Claire forces a smile. Yeah, I think so. As the episode nears its halfway point, the tension in Genoa City continues to rise. Secrets are teetering on the edge of revelation. Victoria knows that once the truth about Kane and Claire comes out, nothing will ever be the same again. Not for the Newmans, not for the Abbotts, and certainly not for Claire. What she doesn't know is that someone else already has the same information and plans to use it for revenge. The faint familiar chords of the Y&R theme music, a melody that has ushered in decades of drama, fade into the soft, ambient light of the Genoa City Athletic Club. It is a Thursday, October 9th, a day that feels like any other on the calendar but is, in the intricate tapestry of this particular world, a nexus point for half a dozen lives hurtling towards collision. The air itself in the club seems thick with unspoken words and the lingering scent of expensive perfume and old regrets. At a corner table, the steam rising from a china cup of coffee does little to warm the chill surrounding Nikki Newman. She sits with a posture of practiced elegance, but her fingers, tightly clasped around the delicate handle, betray a profound and trembling anxiety. The recent weeks have been a slow unraveling, a carefully constructed life coming apart at the seams, thread by terrifying thread. Her sobriety, that hard-won fortress she has defended for so long, feels less like a stronghold and more like a house of cards in a gathering storm. Every whispered conversation she overhears, every sidelong glance from a familiar face, feels like a potential accusation. She is waiting for the other shoe to drop, a shoe she is terrifyingly aware she might have dropped herself during a blackout she cannot remember, a period of lost time that hangs over her like a shroud, threatening to expose a truth she herself may not be ready to face. Across the room, seemingly a world away, Kyle Abbott attempts to project an image of casual control, but the effort is etched into the tight line of his jaw. He's scrolling through his phone, not really seeing the screen, his mind a whirlwind of corporate strategy and personal vendetta. The merger, the one he staked his reputation on, feels increasingly like a chessboard where the pieces are moving on their own, and he's no longer sure if he's the player or merely a pawn in someone else's game. His thoughts are a tangled knot of ambition and insecurity, constantly circling back to his father, Jack, and the immense, often suffocating weight of the Abbott name. He wants to prove himself, to step out of that long shadow and carve a legacy that is unequivocally his own, but every move he makes seems to entangle him further in the very dynastic expectations he seeks to escape. The pressure is a constant, low hum in his veins, and today it feels less like a motivator and more like a warning siren. He knows that a single misstep, a single piece of information falling into the wrong hands, could not only derail the merger but shatter the fragile détente he has built within his own family. Meanwhile, in the stark, minimalist office at Newman Enterprises, Victoria Newman is a study in focused intensity. The world outside her floor-to-ceiling windows is a panorama of the city she believes she is destined to rule, but her gaze is turned inward, fixed on the internal politics of her own empire. The power struggle with her brother, Adam, is a cold war that has suddenly turned hot, and she is marshalling her forces with the general's precision. There is a cold fire in her eyes, a conviction that her vision for the company is the only one that can ensure its continued dominance. She sees Adam's recent maneuvers not as legitimate business challenges but as acts of betrayal, a poisonous attempt to undermine the legacy their father built. She has spent a lifetime preparing for this role, making sacrifices and difficult choices that she believes Adam, with his chaotic history, could never comprehend. Every decision she makes today is calculated to fortify her position, to demonstrate an unshakable command that will leave no room for doubt in the boardroom or in her father's eyes. She is drawing a line in the sand, and she is fully prepared to bury anyone who dares to cross it, even if that person shares her blood. Unbeknownst to Victoria, the object of her strategic ire is, at this very moment, not in his own office plotting corporate warfare, but standing in the dimly lit hallway of a forgotten downtown apartment building. Adam Newman holds a manila envelope, its contents feeling as heavy as a lead weight in his hands. This is not about quarterly reports or stock valuations. This is about the past, a ghost he thought was long buried. The information inside this envelope is a live wire, capable of electrocuting not just his present standing but of sending shockwaves through the entire Newman family structure. He is torn, a man perpetually at war with himself. Part of him, the part forged in resentment and a lifetime of being the outsider, wants to unleash the truth, to watch the ensuing chaos and finally force the world to see the rot festering beneath the glossy Newman veneer. But another part, a quieter, more vulnerable part that he keeps locked away, fears the collateral damage. He thinks of his daughter, of the tentative, fragile connections he has managed to build, and wonders if this path of destruction is one from which there can be no return. The envelope is both a weapon and a burden, and his choice of what to do with it will define him far more than any business deal ever could. The storm hit Genoa City the following evening, both literally and figuratively. Dark clouds rolled over the skyline, and the first heavy drops of rain pattered against the windows of the Newman mansion. Victoria paced her office, phone in hand, as though it were a lifeline tethering her to a sense of control she no longer possessed. She had tried to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting to Claire and Kane, to the secret that would soon explode and change everything. She thought of Jill, sitting somewhere, determined to orchestrate the reveal in her own careful way, and Nikki, who was torn between loyalty and guilt. Victoria clenched her fists. They were all adults, but in Genoa City, adulthood never seemed to protect anyone from heartbreak. Meanwhile, Kane was restless. He had spent the afternoon at Chancellor Winter's, trying to distract himself with work, but nothing could shake the growing sense that something fundamental had shifted. He thought about Claire. The mysterious connection that had first intrigued him now felt like an invisible thread pulling him into a story he didn't yet understand. He remembered her smile, the way she carried herself despite her pain, and he realized that if the rumors were true, the bond he felt was more than instinct. It was familial, though the idea seemed impossible. When he returned home to his loft, he found Lily waiting, worried and wary. "Kane, you've been distant lately. What's going on?" Kane ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "I can't explain it yet. It's complicated." Lily frowned. "You know you can tell me anything." Kane sighed. "I know, but it's bigger than either of us. And it's not even confirmed yet." The tension between them was palpable, a delicate balance of truth and fear hovering over their heads. At the same time, Claire had returned home after spending the day at the park, still thinking about her conversation with Victoria. She had felt a warmth in Victoria's words, a reassurance that maybe she wasn't as alone as she had believed. But the subtle anxiety in Victoria's eyes didn't escape her. There was something unspoken, something powerful simmering just beneath the surface. Claire didn't know what it was yet, but instinctively she knew that the quiet moments she cherished could vanish at any second. Her mind drifted to Kane as well, the mysterious man who seemed to appear at exactly the right moment, almost as if fate itself had placed him in her path. The idea that he might be more than a friend, more than a protector, began to take root, though she didn't yet know the truth. That night, Victoria could no longer bear the waiting. She decided to drive to Jill's home, needing answers, needing reassurance that the careful plan Jill had promised would work. The rain had turned the streets slick, reflections of neon signs dancing across puddles as she maneuvered through traffic. When she arrived, Jill opened the door with her usual briskness, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of worry. "Victoria," she said, stepping aside. "I wasn't expecting you." Victoria didn't waste time. "Jill, you have to tell me how long we have before this truth comes out. I can't watch Claire and Kane be blindsided." Jill motioned for her to sit. "You're right to be concerned. The truth will come out soon, whether we like it or not, and I've tried to control the timing, but you know Genoa City, secrets have legs." She paused, considering her words. Kane deserves to know first. Claire deserves to know after him. But the longer we wait, the harder it'll hit them. And if you intervene, it could all spiral.